Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. She shouldn't have opened the trunk. The sound that woke her wasn't human. It was a wet, dragging noise, like flesh being pulled across rotting wood. Kayla's eyes flew open, and for a moment, she didn't know where she was. The air was too cold, and the smell like mildew and something metallic hit her throat so hard she gagged. She wasn't in her bedroom. She was in a basement, no windows, just darkness and the faint flickering of an exposed bulb swinging above her. She tried to move. Her wrists ached, tied tight with zip ties. Her legs were numb, bound at the ankles. Her mouth was gagged, but she could still breathe through her nose. Short, panicked gasps. The last thing she remembered was going into the old attic trunk at her grandmother's house. That goddamn trunk. Something moved behind her. She twisted, and the bulb swayed, revealing a hunched silhouette. A figure crouched near the far wall, head tilted, arms unnaturally long. Kayla froze. It wasn't looking at her, it was listening. The sound came again, wet, scraping, like it was pulling itself closer. Arms, nails she couldn't see, just the hunched thing twitching with every noise she made. Its back rose and fell, like it was breathing, or mimicking her breathing. This is not real, she thought. I passed out. I'm dreaming. But the pain in her wrists was real. The cold was real. The nausea crawling up her throat was real. The figure began to turn. She shut her eyes, and then the lights blew out. 6 hours earlier, Kayla had only returned to her grandmother's farmhouse because her mum begged her to. The house was being sold, and they needed to clear everything out. Her cousins wouldn't help. Her mother was too emotionally wrecked to even step foot inside the place. Kayla, being the practical one, took a train from the city and promised she'd spend the weekend boxing things up. The farmhouse sat at the edge of town, surrounded by overgrown wheat fields and no neighbors for miles, just crows, dust, and creaking wood. She hadn't been there since the funeral. The air inside felt heavier than she remembered. The curtains were still drawn. The cross above the fireplace had been turned upside down. She assumed the wind knocked it. There were too many photos of dead people on the walls. Too many shadows where light should have been. Her grandmother had always been strange, a quiet woman who refused to talk about her past, never allowed mirrors in the house, and locked every door twice at night. She also told Kayla, never opened the trunk in the attic, no matter what. Kayla had laughed at the time. What's in it? A cursed doll. Her grandmother just stared at her and whispered, worse. Now, alone and bored, Kayla stood in the attic, flashlight in hand. Dust danced in the beam. The air was thick, like insulation had rotted inside the walls. And there it was, shoved in the back corner beneath an old sheet. The trunk. It was heavier than it looked. Thick, dark wood, with strange symbols carved along the sides. A large lock dangled open from the latch as if someone had already tried to get inside. That's not good, she thought. But curiosity had already won. She opened it. At first it looked like just old rags, faded cloth, thick hairbrushes, and photographs with no faces. Literally every photo inside had the faces scratched out or burned. Then she saw the note. It was folded, old, and tucked into a cracked leather Bible. Do not feed her pain. Do not speak her name. Do not look into her eyes. Kayla's heart knocked against her ribs. Beneath the Bible, wrapped in an old wedding veil, was a mirror. It was cracked, nearly shattered down the center, but not broken enough to toss away. The handle was iron, engraved with those same symbols. From the trunk, she touched the glass. She didn't mean to, but the second her fingers brushed the crack, the attic light blew out. A breath cold and damp hit her ear, and someone whispered, "You saw me." Now, in the pitch-black basement, Kayla realized she couldn't hear the breathing anymore. That was worse. Her body trembled as she strained. Her ears nothing. No footsteps. No dragging. No hissing. Then, a hand brushed her neck. She screamed into the gag. The light flicked back on. The room was empty. The rope had been cut. The ties undone. She was no longer bound, but she hadn't done it. She hadn't moved. The mirror, the same one from the trunk, was propped up in the corner, perfectly intact. Her reflection was smiling. She wasn't. She ran, burst through the basement door, past the kitchen, tripping over boxes and knocking over chairs. The house had changed. Walls were covered in writing now, words carved into the paint, trailing like vines. She feeds on regret. Every lie gives her shape. You looked. Kayla didn't stop. She made it to the front door, but the knob wouldn't turn. Locked. She yanked harder. It was stuck. The windows nailed shut. Then the whisper came again right behind her. You opened it. Now she remembers. She turned no one. But on the wall above her, her grandmother's photo was hanging upside down. Except now, the eyes were burned out. Night had fallen too fast. 1 minute it was daylight. The next, pitch black. Kayla found a flashlight and tried to call someone. No signal. She turned the radio on static. Every device was dead. Then came the knock dot from inside the house. 3 slow taps. From behind the hallway mirror, Kayla stood frozen. That mirror hadn't been there earlier. She walked toward it, heart pounding. Her reflection wasn't moving. She blinked. Her reflection didn't. Then it did something impossible. It reached out. Kayla screamed and threw the flashlight. The glass shattered, but not like normal glass. It let out a shriek when it broke, like a thing dying, and something leaked out of it, a thick black smoke that crawled along the floor like water searching for cracks. The house began to groan, like it was alive. In the center of the living room, the trunk reappeared, closed, padlocked, but breathing. It rose and fell like lungs. Then the lock snapped. Off the lid opened, and something began to climb out. The woman in the mirror. The trunk creaked open with a groan that sounded far too alive. Kayla stumbled backward, trembling, as the lid slowly lifted on its own. There were no hands, just invisible force, like air being pushed aside. Inside wasn't darkness, it was a face, a pale, bloated face with thin lips stretched into a grin, too wide for any human mouth. Black, stringy hair floated around her like smoke underwater. Eyes, if they could be called that, were sunken, pitch black, and glistening like oil. Her skin cracked with every inch she rose. Kayla couldn't scream, her throat locked. Then the woman in the trunk spoke without moving her mouth. You broke the glass. Now we're both free. Kayla ran again. She didn't care where. Down the hallway, up the stairs, into her grandmother's bedroom, the only room that still smelled like lavender and warmth. She slammed the door shut, locked it, and backed into the farthest corner. The mirror above the dresser was gone. So were the photographs on the wall in their place. Symbols had been carved, deep, fresh, as if someone had scratched them with fingernails. Don't speak her name. She is not dead. The trunk is her grave. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She grabbed her phone against till dead. But this time, something new flashed across the black screen. A reflection. That thing with the wide grin and black eyes smiling behind her. Kayla dropped the phone. It clattered under the bed. This isn't happening. It's a hallucination. It has to be. I hit my head. I'm dreaming. But then the bedroom door clicked. Unlocked. She hadn't touched it. Kayla held her breath. Footsteps moved outside the door. Slowly, deliberately, like someone crawling with broken bones. Drag. Click. Drag. Click. Then silence. She waited. Then the closet door behind her creaked open. Kayla turned just in time to see an arm reach out. Not human. Thin, cracked, dripping black, liquid onto the carpet. She screamed, kicked the closet shut, and shoved the dresser in front of it. She didn't stop to think. She just moved. Out the bedroom door, down the stairs, through the kitchen and stopped. There was a photo on the fridge, one she had never seen. Her grandmother, standing in front of the trunk, smiling, young, holding a mirror. The same mirror, but beside her stood a woman with no face. Just pale skin stretched smooth over her head like porcelain. No mouth, no eyes, no nose. Yet her hand was clutching Kayla's grandmother's wrist, hard, and Kayla could swear she saw the photo twitch. She had to get out, had to break a window. She grabbed a cast iron pan and smashed it into the kitchen window. Wood splintered, but the glass didn't even crack. Instead, blood sprayed from it, her blood. The pan cut into her hand when it bounced back. But the window was not glass, it was a mirror. The entire house was changing, becoming reflective, like it wanted her to see herself, or let something else see through her. Kayla fled into the pantry, wrapping her bleeding hand in an old towel. Her heart was pounding so fast she could barely breathe. In the corner of the pantry was a dusty, decades-old radio. She turned the knob. For a second static, then a voice, her grandmother's voice. If you're hearing this, then I failed. She's loose. She's watching you now. Kayla's blood ran cold. The voice crackled, continuing, like it had been recorded on tape. Her name is Morale. She was my sister. I locked her in that trunk when I was 12. I had to. Kayla, knees buckled. What? She had never heard of another sister. Her grandmother never spoke of siblings. No one in the family had. Mireille was wrong. Born without a face. My mother called her a punishment. She never cried, never aged. She whispered things to me that no one else heard. The voice on the radio cracked with static, then came back lower. She fed on emotions, fear, grief, regret. She learned to mimic voices, then faces. She tricked my father, made him drown my mother in the well. I stopped her. I sealed her in the mirror, then buried it in the trunk. You must not speak to her. If you do, she becomes you. A burst of static, then silence, then a different voice, soft, like a child. She lied. Kayla. Kayla screamed and dropped the radio. The pantry door burst open. She ran, hands shaking, through the hallway as the house flickered between its original form and something far more ancient, wood turning black, walls sagging like wet flesh, doors twitching as if breathing. The house was becoming her. Kayla finally made it to the attic stairs. She had to close the trunk. Maybe if she could seal it again, she could trap her. Up she went, 2 steps at a time, breath ragged, throat raw. The attic door was already open, the room dimly lit by candles that hadn't been there earlier. The trunk sat in the center of the room, empty, and in the mirror, leaning beside it, Kayla saw herself, except it wasn't her. It wore her face, yes, but the grin was too wide, the eyes too dark. The reflection blinked when she didn't, moved when she stood still. Then it whispered, "Do you want to know what she did?" The attic door slammed shut behind her. She turned. Nothing. No footsteps. No wind. But the reflection kept speaking. "Your grandmother lied to you, Kayla. I wasn't born evil. I was made. They carved out my face to keep me from screaming." Kayla clutched the Bible she'd taken from the trunk, flipping through pages. Some had words scrawled over the scripture in dried blood. Confess on reverse. Bind. She turned to the mirror. "I don't believe you," Kayla whispered. The reflection smirked. "But you looked. You listened. You opened the door. And now, you'll replace me." The mirror began to crack from the inside. Kayla screamed and hurled the Bible into it. The glass exploded outward. The room pulsed like a living organ and Kayla felt a body being pulled into the mirror. She grabbed the edge of the trunk to hold on, her feet dragging across the floor. From the shattered mirror, hands reached out. Dozens of them, children's hands, men's, her grandmother's, pale, thin, cracked, like porcelain. And then the face appeared again. Mireille. She was smiling, so was Kayla. But Kayla wasn't doing it. With one final scream, she yanked the trunk. Lid shut. And everything stopped. The hands vanished. The room went still. The glass turned dark. Kayla collapsed. Her head throbbed. Her vision blurred. The attic felt quiet again. The trunk sat in front of her, sealed. She had done it. Maybe, but when she looked at her hands, they were no longer bleeding. No scar, no pain. She crawled to the mirror's frame, looked in. The reflection was her again, but now it winked. Echoes in the glass. Kayla woke to daylight she didn't trust. Thin white morning bled through the attic's single window, painting dust motes gold. She lay on her side beside the trunk, aching everywhere, head ringing like a struck bell. Had she passed out, been dragged back? The last clear image was her own reflection, winking after she slammed the lid shut. For one blessed heartbeat, she could almost believe she'd dreamed it. Then she saw the floorboards. Every plank around the trunk was warped outward, as if something inside had swollen in the night and pushed against the wood. Dark splinters pointed at her like a field of tiny stakes. The air reeked of rust and wet earth. She rose slowly. Her clothes were streaked with soot she couldn't remember touching. The bleeding hand was still on marked skin, smooth. Wrong. She flexed her fingers. They flexed back, but the movement felt half-second late, like puppets tugged by invisible strings. A chill slid down her spine. "Not mine," she whispered, testing her voice. It trembled, thin and strange, yet the words came out perfectly, too perfectly. No hoarseness, no fatigue, as though someone had oiled her vocal cords overnight. "Get out, now." Kayla inched to the attic door, but stopped when she noticed a neat parcel, resting against it, the cracked Bible wrapped in the wedding veil. Someone or something had tucked a fountain pen through the lace, its nib crusted black. A note was pinned to the veil and the looping cursive she recognized from childhood birthday cards. "Kayla darling, There is still a way to bind her, but you will have to finish what I was too weak to do. Grandma Lilla, the ink was fresh. Grandma Lilla had been buried 8 months ago. Kayla's breath fogged in the cold air. The attic window frosted over, frosting from the inside, blooming lace-like patterns until no daylight remained. She shivered and clutched the parcel. The house below the staircase groaned beneath her weight, each step echoing far louder than physics allowed. Halfway down she became aware of another set of creaks, perfectly mirroring hers, delayed by a single tread. She froze. The echo froze. She descended. The echo followed Dot at the foot of the stairs. She spun around, nothing behind her but dim hall and shadows. The living room now looked almost normal. No flowing walls or breathing doors, just stale air and disordered boxes. The splintered kitchen window gleamed intact, yet when she tried the front door the knob remained immovable, metal cold as a corpse's teeth. She made her way to the study. Maybe Lila's diaries still sat in the roll-top desk. Papers lay, strewn like confetti, new papers, none she had dumped out. Each sheet carried the same sentence, typed on an antique typewriter she'd never seen. She needs a face. And beneath every line, blurred as if smeared by wet fingers, appeared the single word Kayla. Her stomach heaved. She stumbled to the bathroom, flipped on the light and recoiled. The mirror above the sink showed 2 figures, herself in the doorway and herself standing inside the bathroom. Closer, blood trickling from the corner of her smile. The nearer reflection lifted a finger and wrote on the glass from the wrong side, "Let me out." Kayla's knees buckled. The light fizzed and died. When it flickered back, only one reflection remained, her own face, pale, eyes wild. She rushed out before the bulb could blink again. A voice on the line, her cell still refused to power on, so she searched for the The old rotary phone in the kitchen hung crooked, receiver missing. She found it on the floor, cord jerking as if recently dropped. Static whispered on the line. She almost replaced the handset, then heard her name. "Yeah, Kayla." Answer. A human voice, real, familiar. "Lucy." Kayla pressed the receiver tight. "Lucy, is that you?" Her college roommate's voice cut through pops of static. "Took forever to connect. I got your text." "You okay?" Sounded crazy. Double quotes text. Kayla hadn't sent any text. "Listen," she hissed. "Do not come here. Something's wrong with the house." "With me," the line squealed. Lucy's voice returned, distorted. "Too late. GPS says I'm 5 minutes out. Had to see for myself." "You sounded scared." "No. Turn around." Kayla shouted. "Don't." Click. Dead again. Kayla's pulse pounded. The phone cord kept swaying after she'd set the receiver back, though no breeze stirred the kitchen. It looked almost expectant. She glanced at the window. Her reflection stared back from the dark glass, smiling. Outside, gravel crunched, a sound of a car rolling to a stop. Lila's film desperate for answers before Lucy reached the door. Kayla darted into the basement, the place she'd awakened bound the night before. The bulb above still flickered, but the walls were bare. The hunched silhouette was gone. Only a dusty projector sat on a work table, a reel loaded and waiting. Power cord already plugged into a socket that hadn't worked in years. A square of sheet hung as a screen. Kayla hesitated. Every instinct said, "Don't," but she hit the switch. The real word. Footage sputtered onto the sheet, grainy black and white home movie. A little girl, perhaps 8, wearing Lila's eyes, carrying a mirror into a cornfield at dusk. Beside her shuffled a faceless child in a sackcloth dress. Kayla's breath caught. Film. Lila drew a circle in the dirt, placed the mirror inside, and began chanting in broken Latin. The faceless child craned blind toward the camera, as if hearing it. The picture jolted, then showed the mirror surface rippling dark. The faceless girl stepped through, vanished into glass like water, and the mirror clouded with swirling black. Young Lila hammered nails into the frame, wrapped it in the wedding veil, and crammed the mirror into the trunk. The camera now panned to reveal open, waiting like a hungry mouth. Before the lid shut, the faceless child's hand reached out, grabbed Lila's wrist. The film froze on that clasp. Then the bulb popped, and the basement plunged into darkness. Somewhere above, floorboards creaked, footsteps crossing the foyer. "Lucy," Kayla whispered, but a second set of footsteps followed a half-beat behind. The welcome she burst from the basement. Lucy was already in the hallway, phone flashlights sweeping the gloom. "Kayla," Lucy called. Her smile faltered when she saw the bloodless pallor of Kayla's face. God, What happened? No time, Kayla rasped, grabbing her arm. We have to leave now. The front door still would not budge. Lucy pulled, cursed, rattled the knob. Is this a prank? Because if upstairs, something banged 3 deliberate thuds. Lucy's eyes widened. Who else is here? Kayla shook her head. They backed into the living room. The temperature dropped so sharply their breaths fogged. Mirrors surfaced on every surface windowpane's TV screen, even a sheen on the floorboards. Reflections multiplied, fracturing into kaleidoscopic shards. In each shard, Kayla saw herself smiling that too wide smile. In others, Lucy's throat was already slit, head lolled at an impossible angle. Lucy whimpered. Kayla, what is that? The TV fizzed on, showing static that morphed into the attic footage from seconds earlier. Young Lila hammering nails, the faceless child clutching. Only now the child lifted her head and had Kayla's face. Lucy screamed. The house answered, walls shuddered. Pictures crashed. The trunk materialized in the center of the room, lid yawning open like a coffin. Mireille's whisper slithered from everywhere. A face for a face. Choice of blood. Kayla seized Lucy's hand. Basement, there's a window well. Maybe we can smash through. They sprinted, but the hallway stretched like taffy. Doors multiplied, all leading back to the living room. Each detour ended with the trunk looming closer. The air filled with mirror shards spinning like gnats, showing every fearful angle of their flight. At last they reached the kitchen. The back door had become a wall of silver glass. Within it, Mireille's silhouette drifted closer, her grin spanning ear to ear. Kayla remembered the Bible instructions: confess in reverse. Bind. Maybe a blood vow could reseal the mirror. The way Lila's nails had once done. She grabbed a carving knife. Lucy, if I bleed into the trunk, maybe. Lucy backed away, eyes huge. You're scaring me. A bang rattled the window. Mireille's face pressed against the glass from inside. The reflection, teeth scraping surface, trying to chew through reality. Kayla's hand trembled over the knife. She felt the puppet delay again, like her muscles awaited permission from someone else. I'm not giving you my face. She snarled at the mirror. From the hallway, second Kayla walked in identical clothes, identical wounds, not wounds. She smiled at Lucy. It's okay, the double said sweetly. She's sick. Help me hold her. Lucy froze between them, unsure which friend was real. The double extended a hand. Lucy reached toward it. Kayla sliced her own palm. Blood burst bright. She slammed her hand on the trunk's lid, smearing crimson runes across the ancient symbols. The house screamed. Every mirror cracked at once. Chorus of splintering glass. The double flickered, glitching like a broken video frame, then split. One half stayed. The other dissolved into smoke, sucked toward the trunk. Mireille shrieked from the shattered window. Sound of children crying through static. Blood dripped from the trunk, hissing like acid. The lid shuddered, half shut, fighting her push. Lucy, shock white, darted forward to help slam it closed. Where's the lock? Kayla yelled. That the iron lock lay on the floor and melted to slag. From inside the trunk, a heartbeat thumped slow, enormous. Boom, 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 boom. With each pulse the house stitched its wounds. Glass healed, cracks sealed, mirrors reformed. Silhouette regained clarity, fists pounding against new panes. The trunk would not stay shut. Something stronger than both girls pushed. Kayla's bleeding hand flared ice cold. Her cut sealed instantly, blood vanishing into perfect skin. She felt hollowed, as if the wound had taken more than blood taken will. Lucy noticed. Your hand. How? Kayla couldn't answer. Words tangled in her throat like fishing line. She realized with dawning terror she was no longer certain whose thoughts moved her tongue. Face for a face. The mirror hissed. The pivot. Kayla looked at Lucy. Sweet, terrified Lucy, who had driven here out of friendship and felt a wave of alien hunger. To hand Lucy over, trade one soul for another, seal the trunk forever. Easy, quick, logical. Her mind revolted. Her body took a step toward Lucy anyway. No, Kayla groaned, fighting her own muscles. Lucy backpedaled. Kayla, what are you doing? The trench between desire and action widened. Kayla's limbs jerked like a broken marionette, half commandeered by Mireille, half by her own desperate will. She grabbed the Bible, flipped pages at random. A margin note glowed scarlet. There must be a witness. Witness? Did that mean Lucy? The ritual needed 2 descendants, or merely eyes to acknowledge the binding. Kayla racked hazy memories. Muriel feeds on regret. Perhaps forcing Kayla to sacrifice Lucy would season Muriel's resurrection with maximum guilt. Lucy, listen, Kayla gasped. Whatever happens, don't look away. Lucy, tears sliding, nodded. Kayla faced Muriel's form inside the kitchen mirror. You want regret? Take mine. She lifted the fountain pen from Lila's veil, jabbed it into her own forearm, until ink-black blood oozed. In crimson script, she wrote across the mirror letters, sizzling across the surface. I will never forgive NYC. Left the mirror steamed. Muriel's smile faltered and fed by guilt already confessed. Muriel's behind exploded inward, reversing the shrapnel. Shards flew into the trunk, hammering the lid shut. Kayla slammed her forearm onto the sizzling latch, branding flesh and wood. Together, the heat cauterized, smoke filled the room, reeking of bone and varnish. She screamed through gritted teeth, poured every ounce of self-loathing into the seal. I open my sins, but I close you. With a deafening crack, the trunk sealed. The heartbeat stopped. Silence. Breath, that isn't yours. Lucy pulled Kayla away from the smoking box. The walls stayed solid. No reflections crawled. For the first time in 2 days, the door latch clicked and swung open with an ordinary creak, letting in a late morning breeze that smelled of cut hay. They staggered onto the porch, sunlight bright as baptism. Kayla's branded forearm throbbed, raw, but held. Relief loosened her chest. Lucy exhaled shaky laughter. We actually thunk. They whirled. Behind them, the trunk sat in the doorway. Lid sealed but pulse faintly thudding again. On the charred top, 4 mirrored claws grew, curling like sprouting vines, engraving a new message into the wood. One door closes, another opens. Kayla's reflection flashed across every porch, window nor grin, just infinite eyes, each weeping inky tears. Inside her skull, a whisper that was half her own voice sighed, face for a face, or world for a face. Not all mirrors stay silent, Kayla thought. They'd escaped. The trunk was sealed. The reflections had stopped shifting. The house stood still again, quiet, like a predator that had eaten its fill. But something inside her still whispered. Even now, driving away down the dirt road in Lucy's Honda, her reflection in the side view mirror wouldn't look at her. It stared forward, smiling faintly. Lucy didn't speak for a while. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. When she finally broke the silence, her voice cracked. That wasn't your grandma's ghost, was it? Kayla shook her head slowly. No, that thing wasn't family. It wore family. Lucy glanced at her, then immediately looked back at the road like she wasn't sure she trusted Kayla's face anymore, and Kayla wasn't sure either. The first sign they spent the night in a cheap roadside motel just past the county line. Lucy insisted. Kayla wanted to keep driving, to put as much distance between herself and that farmhouse as possible. But her body ached in strange ways. Her skin was fevered, and her dreams ... She dreamt in mirrors, not of mirrors in them. Each dream placed her inside a reflection, looking out, watching Lucy sleep, watching herself sleep, watching a version of her still standing inside that attic. Opening the trunk again, she woke at 3:33 a.m. to find the bathroom light flickering behind a cracked door. The mirror hummed. She stepped out of bed and approached slowly. The glass showed her, but not exactly. Her reflection was tilted, the eyes slightly too far apart, the smile just a twitch in the corner, a mockery of comfort. Kayla raised a hand. The reflection didn't move. Then it leaned forward on its own and whispered, "You gave me a door." Kayla screamed. Lucy jolted awake, rushed to the bathroom, but the light was off, and the mirror was ordinary again. No reflection spoke. No face moved on its own, just Kayla, wide-eyed, sweating, alone. Shattered distance. The next morning, Lucy tried to make Kayla laugh. She brought her gas station coffee and a donut with candy eyes and said, "Look, breakfast is haunted, probably cursed. We shouldn't eat it." But her jokes fell flat. Kayla barely touched the coffee. Her gaze kept drifting to the mirror above, the TV, where she'd draped a bath towel. "Don't look at glass," she murmured. "That's how she finds you again." Lucy nodded nervously. "What if we talk to someone? A priest? Or a psychic? I know someone in Seattle." "No." Kayla's voice was hard now. "She wants us to ask for help, wants to spread." Lucy didn't press. But when Kayla went into the bathroom again, Lucy turned on her phone screen and recorded a video. When she played it back, she nearly dropped the phone. In the background, Kayla stood at the mirror brushing her teeth, but the reflection stood still and smiled. Cracks at home. Kayla returned to her apartment 3 days later. Alone, Lucy had begged her to stay, but Kayla refused. If she follows me, I'd rather she comes only for me. The moment she stepped inside her building, the elevator lights flickered. On the 3rd floor, the mirror panel next to the buttons flashed with static just for a moment, but she saw Lila's face, mouth sewn shut, screaming from behind the silver. By the time she got to her door, she was already shaking. Everything looked normal inside, but something felt off. The lights worked, her phone charged, her couch and TV were untouched. Then she entered the bathroom and stopped breathing. Every mirror, every reflective surface, her makeup compact, the chrome on the faucet, even the black glass of her phone screen had been scratched. With 5 words, "Not enough, I'm still here." Lucy's call that night. Lucy called sobbing. "She's in my mirror now," she whispered. "Kayla, I covered them all with blankets, but it's like she knows where I look. My window reflected in the toaster, my phone screen, even puddles outside." She smiled through rainwater. Kayla pressed the phone to her ear, heart thudding. "She's spreading. She's using you to do it," Lucy said. "You brought her to me, and now she's whispering things when I sleep." Kayla closed her eyes. "I'm sorry. She said I'd look better in glass." "What does that mean?" Kayla couldn't answer. Lucy's voice broke. I think she wants me to open the trunk again, but it's not at the farmhouse anymore. It's following us." Kayla's hand trembled. She looked around her dark apartment. The bathroom door slowly creaked shut, all on its own. Truth in the pages desperate. Kayla dug out the veil-wrapped Bible from her bag, the one left by her dead grandmother. She hadn't dared touch it since the attic. Now she opened it. Inside the final pages was a new message, scrawled in fresh ink. "She's not sealed, only distracted. Her body is bound, but her voice walks free. And once a mirror knows your name, it becomes a door. There is only one way to end it. You must give her back what was stolen. The first face, the girl in the veil. Return the borrowed soul, or she make the world her mirror." Kayla reread the lines until they burned into her memory. The first face, Lila's, hers. Mirail's. Return the borrowed soul. Then it clicked. Lila hadn't just sealed Mirail, she replaced her. Mirail never vanished. She was trapped inside Lillian now. Maybe inside Kayla. A new face, a new voice, a new home. The revelation. Kayla dug through Lila's belongings until she found an old VHS tape, labeled in curling ink, the birthday tape, 1973. She found a thrift store that still converted old tapes to USB, paid cash, waited when she watched it on her laptop. Her stomach turned. A little girl Lila stood beside a trunk. She smiled for the camera, but something about the way she moved, jerky, delayed, not quite human. Then the camera zoomed in on her eyes. They were entirely black. Kayla paused the frame. Behind Lila, reflected in the dusty attic mirror, was another girl, same dress, same curls, only that girl wasn't smiling. She was banging on the glass. Trapped inside. The one outside. The one in the real world was the wrong one. The exchange. Kayla stared at herself in the mirror that night. "You were never sealed," she whispered. Her reflection nodded. "I'm not me anymore." The reflection smiled, and Kayla saw the outline of a veil, white, faint, ghostly, draped across her shoulders. "You were always mine," the reflection whispered, "even before Lila died." Kayla lifted the wedding veil from her bag. It was ice cold now, stiff, like bone. She placed it over her shoulders and stepped closer to the mirror. Behind the glass, Mirail grinned wide, but she looked desperate, like someone on the edge of drowning. Kayla touched the mirror surface. "I'm ready to return what was stolen." The veil shimmered. The glass cracked. A sharp pull yanked her forward, but she resisted. The mirror rippled. 1,000 whispering voices screamed her name. Behind her, the door flung open. Lucy stood in the hallway, pale, crying. "No, Kayla, don't. She wants your body." Kayla turned and whispered, "It's already hers." Then she plunged her hands into the mirror, face for a soul inside the mirror. Time did not exist. Kayla floated in black water. Around her, fragments of memory drifted, hers and Lila's. She saw a little girl singing to herself. She saw Lila hammering the trunk shut. She saw Mirail screaming in silence. Then she found the real Kayla, a small girl hiding behind a veil. of light, afraid, forgotten, replaced. She reached for her. "I remember you," Kayla whispered. "I remember being you." The girl cried and touched her hand. A sudden pain seared through Kayla's chest, like her body was splitting in half. Her soul, divided between the girl and the shadow that had taken her. Behind them, Mirelle rose like a black moon. "You can't have her," she snarled. "She's mine." "No," Kayla said. "You never wanted her. You only wanted the face." Then she held the girl, tight-handed, flung the veil behind her. Mirelle screamed. The veil wrapped around her, dragging her downward into glass, into silence, and the girl inside, Calitha true soul, merged again with her body. Awake Kayla awoke in her apartment. The mirror was gone, shattered completely. Lucy sat beside her, holding her hand. "You were gone for 5 minutes," she whispered, "but your reflection stayed the whole time, smiling." Kayla sat up. Everything was still, quiet. Her hand, the one she'd used to touch the glass, now bore the faint shape of a veil, burned into the skin like a scar. But the face she saw in Lucy's eyes, it was hers, truly hers. For the first time in weeks, her reflection blinked at the same time. The reflection that followed her home. Kayla thought it was over. The mirror had shattered. The veil had been burned in the backyard. Lucy stayed close, never leaving her side. For once, her reflection moved like it should. No delay, no smirk, no whisper. But trauma, like curses, doesn't vanish with fire. It lingers, crouches in corners, and sometimes it follows you in ways you don't see. Not until it's too late. 7 days later, Kayla returned to her job at the animal clinic. Clients smiled, dogs barked, cats hissed. Nothing unusual. But Kayla couldn't shake the itch like someone stood behind her at all times, breathing, watching, not with eyes, but through something else. Every reflective surface in the clinic was covered. Her request, the glass on the exam tables, the break room microwave, even the windows had sheets over them. Still, she felt her .mirelle. Even sealed, even drowned in the glass world, a sliver had survived. Kayla could feel it riding in her spine. Lucy's night. Terror on a rainy Tuesday night. Lucy called sobbing. "I saw you in my kitchen." Kayla's heart stopped. "What?" "You were standing by my fridge, barefoot, but I knew it wasn't you. Your hair was wet, and you weren't breathing. You just stared at me." Kayla tried to stay calm. "It was a nightmare. Lou, you're just ... still healing." "I took a photo," Lucy whispered. "Tell me this is nothing." She sent it. Kayla opened the message. It was her, standing in the shadows of Lucy's kitchen, head tilted, eyes black and hollow, a faint veil around the neck. Kayla felt the scream rise in her chest but swallowed it. "Delete that photo," she whispered. "Now, that's not a memory, that's an invitation." The return of the trunk that weekend. Lucy disappeared. No calls, no messages, no noise from her apartment. Kayla broke in with the spare key. The place was empty, but in the living room was a new object. No note, no explanation. A trunk. The trunk, wrapped in bedsheets, tied with twine, but it hummed. The same sound from the attic, low and ancient. Kayla's legs nearly gave out. She backed away, but her own phone began ringing. From inside the trunk, it wasn't her ringtone. She reached out with shaking hands and pulled the twine loose. The lid creaked open. Inside lay a shattered mirror, and Lucy's phone cracked, covered in condensation. On its screen a text was half-typed. "Don't open the mirror then." It blinked off. The therapist's warning desperate. Kayla did something she swore she wouldn't. She visited a trauma therapist, one who also worked with survivors of paranormal experiences. Dr. Evelyn Monroe was quiet, gentle, old. She listened to every word without blinking. Then she said, "Mirrors are more than reflection. They are memory. Some believe every mirror keeps a version of you." Kayla asked, "So if I broke them?" Dr. Monroe leaned forward. "You only broke the glass, not the memory inside. That survives, especially if it's been fed." Kayla frowned. "Fed how?" "Fear, pain, recognition. The moment you knew her name, you gave her a doorway." Kayla's voice shook. "How do I close it?" Dr. Monroe hesitated. "You can't. Not alone." Lucy's video that night. Kayla's email pinged. A message from Lucy's backup cloud. No subject, no text, just one video attachment. Kayla clicked. Lucy's face appeared in dim candlelight, whispering, "If you're seeing this, she got me. I didn't open a mirror, I swear, but she found another way. She turned the camera. On the wall behind her were dozens of picture frames, all photos behind glass, I think. It's not just mirrors now, anything with a reflection. She's growing. The camera turned back. Lucy's eyes were red. She said she traded one soul for another. If I offer her someone else, she let me go. Her voice cracked. I won't do that, even if she asks for you. Static dot, then a final whisper, barely audible, but someone else might. Betrayal. Kayla didn't sleep by dawn. She had packed everything. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to run. Again. Always. She got in her car, put the key in the ignition. The rearview mirror was gone, ripped out, but the glove compartment clicked open on its own. Inside was a photo of her and Lucy, smiling, and scrawled in red marker on top of it. She offered you first. Her hands trembled. Had Lucy really not opened the mirror? Or had she cracked and traded Kayla's name for safety? Either way, it didn't matter now, because Kayla was the one who remained. The glass hotel. She ended up 3 states over, an old roadside inn, miles from anywhere. Just one room, wooden floors, no Wi-Fi. She asked the clerk for a room without mirrors. He nodded, like he'd heard that before. The room was bare, one bed, no windows, no reflective surfaces, just raw wood and a single light bulb. It was perfect. Kayla locked the door, blocked it with the dresser, and curled into bed. Finally, peace. Until midnight. She heard the soft creak of a door opening. The dresser hadn't moved. She sat up, heart pounding. The light flickered, and there, in the far wall, was a new object, a mirror, framed in wood, oval, antique. It hadn't been there before. The woman in the glass. Kayla approached slowly. Her reflection blinked normally, looked like her. No delay, no veil. Then, slowly, the mirror shifted. Behind her reflection, a second figure formed. Lucy, but not as she was. Her skin was gray, lips blue, a dark hand wrapped around her neck, pulling her back. Kayla screamed, slammed the mirror with her fist. It cracked. Lucy mouthed one word. Run. The mirror exploded in a flash of white. Kayla collapsed. When she woke, it was morning. That the mirror was gone, so was her car, and her face, her reflection, in the sliver of glass on the nightstand, was not hers. The final realization. Kayla walked down the highway. Every car that passed showed her a glimpse in the shine of hoods, in the windows, in sunglasses on strangers. Her reflection no longer looked like her. It smiled more than she did, tilted its head, blinked to slow, sometimes. It didn't blink at all. Morale hadn't been destroyed. She had copied herself, split, spread, and now, part of her lived in every piece of reflective glass Kayla had ever looked into. No fire could destroy her now. No mirror could contain her, because she was the reflection, and she was learning how to live without the glass. The mirror doesn't need glass anymore. Kayla had stopped looking at herself. No phone screens, no puddles, no polished doorknobs, because every time she caught a glimpse, her reflection wasn't quite a. It stood too still, smiled too long, and every once in a while it mouthed words she wasn't saying. Words like, she left you, give in, come home. 9 days since Lucy vanished. Kayla lived in motel rooms now, ones with no TVs. She taped over every shiny surface. Her wallet mirror gone, her makeup bag dumped, the windows blacked out with garbage bags and duct tape. She hadn't spoken to anyone in days. The world had become silent, empty, and strangely reflective. She noticed something new. She no longer cast a shadow in certain lighting. But sometimes, her reflection did. A stranger who knew too much at a small gas station. Kayla was pouring coffee with her head down when the clerk said, without looking up, "Don't drink that." She's watching through the cup. Kayla froze. The man, maybe in his 60s, had deep burn scars across his face, one eye cloudy. He looked tired, but calm. "How do you know?" Kayla whispered. He pointed at a small shard of glass mounted on the cash register. "She visited me too, years ago. Took my brother. I spent 6 months in a mental hospital because no one believed me." Kayla stared at him, shaking. "How did you survive?" He smiled grimly. "I gave her what she wanted." Kayla flinched. "You gave her someone?" "No," he said. "I gave her me." The mirror ritual in reverse. He told her the story, in a voice like rusted nails. There was a way not to destroy her, but to contain her, not in glass, Not in objects, but in a person. She's a parasite, he said. A psychic leech, a soul that was cursed to be forgotten, erased. But she found mirrors, and in mirrors, she could echo. Kayla whispered, Mirrell. She was real, wasn't she? The man nodded. Hung for witchcraft. Betrayed by her sisters. They cursed her name to never be remembered. So she made sure no one could forget her face. Kayla asked the only question that mattered. How do I end it? Become the glass. He scribbled instructions on a napkin. An ancient reversal rite. It required 3 things. The last object that mirrored her face. A name she hasn't stolen yet. A willing sacrifice. Someone who'll take her place. Kayla stared at the napkin. Her hands were shaking. She's part of me now, she whispered. She's in everything I touch. He nodded. That's why only you can trap her again. You're the door, but you have to close it. From the inside. What happens to me? The man didn't answer. He didn't have to. The return to where? It began. Kala returned to her childhood home. The place where she and Lucy had played Bloody Mary for the first time. Where the mirror was first cracked. Her mother's house was empty now. Dust-covered. Forgotten. Just like Mirelle had been. In the attic. The broken trunk sat where she last left it. The same trunk Lucy had hidden the veil in. Kayla laid out. The ritual circle was salt, shards, old photos, and the last sliver of mirror that still held her distorted reflection. She placed Lucy's cracked phone in the center, and waited. Midnight. The bargain. The air grew cold. The walls began to sweat. From the sliver of glass came a whisper. Kayla. The mirror, shard rippled like water. Her own reflection leaned forward, grinning with too many teeth. But it wasn't just her anymore. It was Lucy, too, and the gas station man, and maybe even her mother. Kayla held up the veil, now worn, blood-stained. I know what you are, she said. You're not a ghost. You're a hollow, a stolen skin. Mirelle's voice came back, layered and broken. Then give me yours. The trap. Kayla took the final step. She invited the reflection into her. Not with words, but by doing what Mirelle had wanted all along. She looked into the mirror and whispered, take me. For a moment, silence, then crack. The mirror exploded outward, a wind of ice, a scream that sounded like 100 voices burning at once. Kayla fell to her knees, her vision dimmed. Then came the weight, 1,000 reflections, crawling into her skin. She saw her past, her first fear, her lost childhood. Lucy's tearful eyes. She was drowning inside herself. But before Mirelle could root herself fully, Kayla pulled the veil over her head and bit her own tongue hard enough to bleed. You're not forgotten, she screamed into the void. You're just not wanted. The silence that followed when Kayla woke. It was morning. The attic was normal. The trunk was gone. So was the glass. So was the glass. So was the veil. So was her reflection. She walked to the bathroom mirror. No image, not even a flicker. She smiled, not because she was free, but because she knew Mirelle was trapped now, inside her, screaming with no way out. Kayla had become the mirror, and mirrors don't talk unless spoken to. 1 year later, a teenage girl named Rachel visited a thrift shop with her friends. She bought an old handheld mirror with a faded ribbon tied to the handle. The clerk warned her, it doesn't show everyone, only those with secrets. Rachel giggled, but that night, when she brushed her hair in the mirror, she saw another girl standing behind. Her one with tear-streaked cheeks and no mouth. Final lines. Some mirrors don't break, they wait. And some names, like Mirelle, aren't curses. They're invitations. So if you see your reflection smiling before you do, don't smile back. Don't say her name. And whatever you do, don't look twice. The end.